Hi, everybody. Welcome to my session. I'm Clement from BeMyGuest in Singapore. Today, I'll share with you a bit about how we do cross-platform influencer marketing in Asia. And first and foremost, what we'll do is the session we split up into 3 different portions. So first, I'll show you what we did with BeMyGuest in terms of a travel series campaign. And then I'll give you an overview of how cross-platform influencer marketing is done in China. And finally, the final third of the presentation, I'll invite my guest, Mr. Jens Trainhardt, which is the Executive Director of Mekong Tourism, to share with us his experiences in doing cross-platform influencer marketing with his organization, Mekong Tourism. So first and foremost, to set the context, who we are. So BeMyGuest, we have been around for more than 5 years now. We were fortunate enough last year in 2016 to be named one of the world's 50 most innovative company. And behind our technology, we have ended up in top 5 in the travel category. So what we do is we are essentially a B2B player. Globally, we are the largest inventory of Asian activities, tours, and attraction content. So we provide the technology to the operators of activities, tours, and attractions, helping them digitize and then connecting them to the major players, online travel agencies in China, India, and across of Asia. And this is how we have done so far. So we are pretty much like the booking suite of Booking.com, giving the hoteliers the technology to manage their rates, pricing, inventory, and distributing their product. That's what we do for the attractions, activities, and day tour space in Asia. Then we connect them to the biggest players in the industry. So right now in China, we are connected to the largest players like Ctrip, Tuniu, to India, Yatra, to Indonesia, Traveloka, and so on. So what we are saying is that work with us, use our technology, and we take care of the rest to do the distribution. So this is setting the context of what we are trying to achieve for today's session. So this is what we have done and what my team has gone through in terms of the thought process behind cross-platform influence marketing. So these are the 5 questions that we think about when we want to do influencer marketing. So what's the objective of the campaign? Who is the audience? How do I find the ideal influencer? What's the platform that we should use? And then once we find the influencer and the platform, how do we actually work closely to maximize the influencer's audience to deliver the best engagement results? And finally, obviously, to track the engagement results. So first and foremost, asking the objective, right? Is this to try to capture a new audience? So when we set out to do this campaign, our customer base was around 25 to 40 years old. We were thinking, okay, maybe there's a potential to capture the university or graduate audience, so between the ages of 18 to 24. So that was the goal of this campaign. And secondly is, am I trying to build an influencer community around my brand to be my brand champions? And how do we actually achieve that? And thirdly, what am I trying to achieve, right? To promote the product and over which time span. So the goal behind this was to actually target it for the school holidays of the universities and college students. Secondly, how do we find the ideal influencer for this campaign? So we want to find an influencer that is not just hard selling your product, but actually subtly promoting your product and making sure that it's got a big and wide audience that's not just local, but across national borders. And very importantly is the engagement rate, which I'll repeat over and over again. That is very important. It doesn't matter how big your audience is, but it has to have high engagement rates, right? And also at the end of the day, what we want to measure is the cost per engagement. So that is very important for us to track the success of the campaign. And in terms of the platform selection, right? So our audience, so between the ages of 18 to 24, what kind of platforms are they using? Is it Instagram? Is it Weibo in China? Is it Facebook? And so on and so forth. And also based on the topic expertise of the audience. It's no point for you to engage a food blogger to promote your adventure activities, right? So we need to make sure that that's the right person to promote the right activity. Fourthly, we need to engage the audience very much. It's not just like, okay, I've selected you, good luck, cheerio, deliver me the results and the engagement. No, work with the influencer. The influencer will know what best his audience is interested in, how best to actually get them engaged, and also making sure that what the influencer is passionate about. So are they actually working with you just because you're giving them money, or do they actually believe in your product, in your brand? After the campaign, will they actually use it and so on? So that's very important. And very finally, especially in targeting the millennials in Asia, need to have very short form content. So anything maximum between 10 to 12 minutes, no longer than that, so that they can browse and look on it on the mobile phone. So it's very important to collaborate very closely in terms of trying to set the goals and achieve the goals with your influencer. So at the end of the day, it's all about engagement, how you actually measure the success of it. So obviously the natural thing would be the increase in the visitors and conversion rates, and very important as well is the engagement rates. So the influencers, followers, do they tweet about it? Do they post on Facebook? Do they share it with their friends on Weibo and so on? So what happens is this: if you get this campaign right with your influencer, here are some of the fruits that you stand to gain. So in Southeast Asia, we have one of the highest penetration in terms of social media usage. Why is this so? A lot of the millennials' time is spent very much in traffic because of all the traffic jams in Jakarta, in Bangkok, and so on. So whilst they're stuck in traffic commuting, they use a lot of social media. Secondly, in Indonesia, that is the highest rate in terms of social media usage across Southeast Asia, looking at almost 80% using at least social network once a month. And looking at the millennials in Asia, what we are saying is that they actually use their mobile phones at 22 hours a week, and actually looking at 50% of it through social media network. So now I've given you some pointers in terms of influencer marketing. I'll give you an example of what we have done at BeMyGuest in terms of our collaboration with an influencer in Asia. So video, please.
Making sushi,
Oh, really? Yes. Oh, is that why I have to wear this?
and you will become sushi chef.
Wow! So you're gonna make me some friends.
Resisting the urge.
Sushi making, it was so delicate, it was so precise. I had
So this is the travel series that we did for the past 2 years, season 1, season 2, that has actually won the gold medal at the New York Online Festivals. So how have we actually approached this? So we have engaged this social media influencer called Sonia. Sonia is the DJ of the most popular millennial travel radio station in Singapore. And she's one of the few radio DJs that has actually successfully made the transition from radio to television. So we worked on this travel series, which is produced by MediaCorp, which is Southeast Asia's largest media channel, terrestrial channel. And together with the sponsor AirAsia, we've rolled out this season 1 and 2, which has attracted around 5 million viewers for both the seasons. And in these 2 seasons, it features all the destinations that AirAsia flies to, as well as all our activities in these destinations. So what we have actually used also is the multiple platforms, right? So MediaCorp, they have their own online channels, their video channel, YouTube, as well as the radio, Facebook channel. What they are very strong in is not just online, but very much offline, which is terrestrial. So what we are seeing is that in terms of the TV, the radio, and print, before every episode, there's a huge blast across their terrestrial channel, generating interest and buzz for viewers to actually watch the series online. This series is an online-only series, so there's no terrestrial broadcast, right? So it's specifically targeted towards the millennials. And then what we've done on BeMyGuest is this. We are using all our multiple channels, not just publicizing it on our webpage, but also showing the products that were shown in the episodes that the viewers can actually book and do, like a kimono ceremony or a ninja ceremony, and so ninja activity and so on. So these are actually bookable, and then we have a blog which we write about it, and then we get it out on Yahoo Travel, which is our content syndication partner, followed by newsletters as well as our Facebook page. And then what we have done is as well, how do we actually engage these viewers and actually capture their details? So we actually run this campaign called Happy Ending Contest. So the goal of this contest is to get the viewers to actually tell what are their favorite activities in each episode and why they want to try them. So the prize is that they get to fly to all these 5 different destinations featured in the episode and trying one activity in this destination. So for example, the ninja class in Tokyo, or like skydiving in Pattaya, and so on. And this is judged based on, okay, once they've written this, they've shared it on their Facebook, what are the comments by their friends, and whether it's been reshared and so on. And with this, we are able to find out who the winner is. Secondly, on AirAsia's end, they did an activation campaign. So before each the season started, they held this activation campaign in the top nightclub, a club in Singapore, and they got their flight attendants to attend this event. And so what this was that they also gave out a prize, which is what you call #CastMeAirAsia. So basically, what the viewers had to do was take an Instagram video of themselves and then share it. And same thing as well, the more the users, the followers, the comments, the reshares, and so on, then they win the prize to go on a holiday with the talent, the influencer, Sonia. So a fully paid trip to Bali with Sonia. And so after that, and after this activation campaign, we track actually on Twitter to actually see, okay, what's the response, what's the buzz around it, how do we further engage, who are the thought leaders in terms of this, this season, and then get them to engage them even more to reshare and so on. And then looking at the social media channel, these are how we have been tracking the engagement. So outside of the MediaCorp pages, the most successful channel has been Twitter amongst the 18 to 24-year-old audience in Southeast Asia. And then sentiment-wise, mostly positive or neutral, 99% pretty much positive and neutral. And then what we also do is trying to capture the emotions of what the episodes, after each episode, right? And what the audiences want to see in the next season or the next episode, which destination and so on. So this also helps AirAsia and us find out, okay, what are this 18 to 24-year-old audience interested in doing, where they want to go and travel and fly to. And that really helps us in terms of our marketing strategies. And then this is the results of the season 2 performance. So by and large, Facebook has been the most successful channel in terms of the travel series. YouTube has had limited success, and MediaCorp's own channel has not done that well. So now we move on from tiny Singapore to the largest population in the world, China, and how they actually do cross-platform influencer marketing there. So an introduction would be, what are these social media channels and networking services? So most of us will probably know the WeChat of China, which is pretty much WhatsApp, Facebook, everything all mashed into one. And also the Weibo. Weibo is more like the Twitter of China. So it's very important that all travel players are engaged in these 3 channels. You see AliTrip, Ctrip, Tuniu, the top 3 players in China having their pages on WeChat. And not just that, also on Weibo, where you can actually capture feedback. So in terms of, let's say, customer engagement or complaints, a lot of them are managed on also Weibo as well. Also, if you want to do, let's say, broadcast your activity or tour, you might want to think of websites like, for instance, using Sina.com, Tencent, all these news websites with large audiences to do retargeting or online advertising campaigns. And then looking at beyond these 2 major networks, what we have is QZone, which is very much like a MySpace within the QQ network, which is also part of the Tencent group, which is part of the WeChat group, right? So, and then you have the Baidu Post, and unlike Google Groups, which hasn't been very successful here in the West, this has been very popular for the Chinese community. So doing posts on interests, likes, things to do in the various destinations, obviously making sure that you engage the right influencer in these communities to help build excitement and so on within your brands. You also have the likes of Zhihu, which is like the Quora. So you have people going online and say, okay, what is interesting to do in Munich in the month of April, and so on and so forth. and then people will reply and say, hey, this is what you should do, you shouldn't do, and so on. And then you have Douban. Douban is pretty much a user-generated platform in terms of all the different activities, cooking classes, and so on within the platform. And what is very important is that when, let's say, if you are a business, you want to get online in China, having your own let's say, Youku, which is your YouTube page, you actually have to get permission from the Chinese government to verify you. So this verification process as a foreign business takes quite a while before you actually have your own business Weibo account or Youku account and so on. And once it's activated, obviously, then you have access to a large audience. Very importantly, when you do this influencer marketing in China, is that there is a lot of undercover cyber police. So sensitive topics shouldn't be discussed on this, or else your channel will be switched off, like, for instance, Tibet and so on. So the Chinese actually police it very tightly, and they are like an online netizen that is making a comment or trying to make sure that you stick within the rules. So these are all the different video platforms in China that you should want to consider when you launch your campaign in China. So one company, Airbnb, they have actually tried to do a video series in Iqiyi, the second one there. I think they approached it not in the right manner and didn't get the right talent or influencer. As such, the whole video series only attracted like 5,000 views, which is, in the grand scale of things, a flop in China. So I would like to share with you what are some of the numbers you should be expecting if you are doing an influencer campaign within China. So these are the top 10 social media influencers. And today we'll focus on the top one, which is Liu Yuema, which has almost 4 million followers. And this is what she does, right? So she's obviously having her own WeChat and Youku page. In addition, she works with organizations like the airlines, Qantas, American Airlines, and online travel agency like Tongcheng, as well as the tourism board, to promote their destinations, their products, and so on. Obviously, there's a fee behind it, and when you get her on board, you have to give her the activities and everything for free to test. Secondly, from an individual, we go to an individual that's producing content. So this is an individual that goes to different destinations across Asia with his own video showing all his adventures, and these are some of the numbers that are shown. Then you also have this, which is a group of young yuppies traveling to different destinations in Europe. So these are some of the numbers, and this is not even the largest travel series in China. So episode 1 for London drew around 54 million viewers. And one thing to look in this is that when they did episode 6, 7, and 8 on Turkey, straight away outbound travel to Turkey has increased. So it's very important to engage the right influencer audience to promote your product. And this is the #1 travel series in China. So season 4 recently just finished with 2.4 billion views. And for each of the series, it's at least 150 million viewers online looking at the travel series. So this is the potential of influencer marketing across the various platforms if you do it very correctly. So right now, I'd like to invite Jens from Mekong Tourism to come on stage to share with us what he has done for his organization in terms of influencer marketing. So Jens, please come on board. So Jens.
Where do you want me?
Oh, sure. So you have been in charge of Mekong Tourism for quite a while now. Tell me, what's your organization about and what's your approach towards this influencer marketing?
Thank you, Clement, and thank you for having me. I'm Executive Director of the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office, which is owned by the 6th Tourism Ministry of the Greater Mekong Sub-region, including Cambodia, China, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And we work with influencers in a couple of ways. One is we are using influencers for getting feedback to learn the obstacles from a consumer standpoint. So we'd like to learn how does the consumer think when they travel through the Mekong region as it relates to products and experiences, as it relates to visas, as it relates to safety and security and hygiene. So it's very valuable experiences from that. On the other hand, we are also integrating bloggers and influencers when it comes to fam trips, to get content. And the third piece is we're looking to to build a connection between bloggers and influencers with travel partners for content development. Sometimes travel companies, especially smaller ones, if it's homestays, smaller tour operators or attractions or hotels, are looking for social media management. They're looking maybe for photos, videos, and also for authentic content, stories.
So what it sounds like is a very much government-driven approach from the national tourism organizations. So how do you actually select which influencer that you use? Is it the government selecting it or your organization selecting it?
I happen to have worked with influencers in the past. You mentioned China before. I'm the co-founder of a company called Dragon Trail in China. So Dragon Trail has a huge database of key opinion leaders, KOLs. So many times if we are looking for Chinese KOLs, we work with Dragon Trail. And obviously Chinese KOLs are totally different than Western bloggers. Can be very expensive to work with Chinese KOLs. Sometimes a lot more than advertising, but it can be very powerful as you demonstrated in the case studies. On the other hand, we have an application, an initiative called Blogger Matchup. So on Blogger Matchup, you can see it on Facebook. We have a closed group, and also we have an app where we connect bloggers with travel companies. In Asia, we were the first ones. In 2012, we brought in bloggers from all over the world and worked with TAT, with the Tourism Authority of Thailand. So we have a huge database of travel bloggers as well that we can select from. And we have a process in place how we select these bloggers, if it is more on lifestyle or segmentation or source markets, but also on channels. You know, some may be great video bloggers, some may good in photography or storytelling.
So when it comes to all these influencers, how do you actually capture and measure the success of the campaign?
Obviously, that's a very good question, and a lot of people still don't know the value of bloggers. You know, I mean, we many times hear that bloggers are journalists that didn't really get a job.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously, you know, with let's say, I always compare to Chinese restaurants in New York. There are lots of Chinese restaurants in New York, but only a few ones are very good. But the perception is that there are lots of bad Chinese restaurants in New York. So again, it's about selecting the right ones, but also putting a scope together. So if you're just throwing bloggers out there to write something or go on a trip, many times the results are not good. But if you put the right KPIs, key performance indicators in place, if you put a scope together in terms of what you want them to do, but also if you're very clear on what you want to achieve, if it is influence in terms of a certain market or source market, but many times it's also very powerful of changing perceptions. I'll give you one example. We worked with the Tourism Authority of Thailand back in 2014 when there were riots on the street. And when you switch on BBC and CNN, and many of you may remember that, everyone said, don't go to Thailand, it's a very dangerous place. But I live in Bangkok, and yes, I mean, there were things on the street, but for tourists, it was a very safe place to visit. So we brought in bloggers to tell the truth, to change perceptions. And that was actually quite powerful because obviously sometimes media outlets have a different agenda when it comes to selling advertising and driving traffic than bloggers to being very authentic. So again, have a scope ready and make sure that you communicate correctly with these bloggers or key opinion leaders, and then the results can be very powerful.
And then in terms of the platforms in the Mekong region, is it just blogging or are there popular local platforms that you would like to our audience should consider in terms of reaching out?
Well, I think in the region, when it comes to the main social media platforms in Southeast Asia, obviously you have Facebook, you have Instagram. These are probably the key ones. But when it comes to China, obviously you mentioned WeChat and Weibo. We're developing a platform as it relates to the Mekong region called Mekong Moments. And Mekong Moments is interesting because it's not launched yet. We're still in development phase, but we're looking to launch it in the summer, where we encourage anybody, any one of you who may travel in the region to share their experiences. And many times, experience is identified or defined by a moment that you have in your mind that then turns into a memory. And sharing that and then tagging it with Mekong Moments and with the organization or the travel operator and the location, it becomes an inspiration because that content is aggregated into that website called mekongmoments.com. And when you then click on an image or a video, a shared moment, it then links you to the listing of that experience, and that drives sales for these operators. But for you, as you may not know what you can do in the region, these moments, are very inspirational to then kind of build your trip and motivate you to visit the region.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to open the floor to any questions from the audience for the both of us. Well, if there are no questions, let me ask you a further question then, right? So do you believe that millennials are more susceptible to all this influencer marketing, or how do you feel that?
Well, I think, and probably this has been discussed in other sessions, I think millennials many times don't trust traditional advertising, anymore. So they're looking for, on one hand, that truth, that authenticity when it comes to what you can really experience. But also in many ways, they are sharing their moments, So when we look at bloggers, or influencers, many times these millennials are influencers in itself because they have their sphere of influence when it comes to their community or their group. That's why I actually like key opinion leaders a lot better than the word blogger, because a blogger is just someone who writes something, but in the end it comes to who can you influence with your message. And in China, it comes about these key opinion leaders that have their community that are very loyal to what people are saying. We've done a campaign with Chinese bloggers where we brought them up to a hotel in Chiang Mai called Seven Pillars, and it's a hotel that has a boutique hotel with a very high average rate. And we had these bloggers in there, that was a few years ago, and within 15 minutes they tweeted on Weibo, and we had 10 reservations right there. Just people that didn't even know at that time where Chiang Mai was, what the hotel was all about, but they trusted that key opinion leader so much where they're just, okay, if you're there, if you like it, it'll be right for me as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong and Mr. Trenkhardt. Mr. Wong will be available for questions if you wish in the eTravel Lounge, so you can join him there if you want.
Thank you, everyone.